today. So before we get started, I just want to welcome Amnon, who is our producer, and you will be hearing him, I'm sure, throughout the show. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. And you?
I am just fine.
Good. Everything's going good, right?
Everything,
Groovy.
so far, everything is going just like it's supposed to.
Perfect. Perfect. So for all of you that are listening and watching, I want to remind you that anytime during the show, you are more than welcome to call in and chat with me and my guests. Any point in time, you have a comment, you have a question, you just want to say hi, we'd love to have you. You can connect with us through Skype if you'd like to. If you're anywhere in the world, you can communicate with us on computers. That's plural, the number 2K voice. Or you can call in from a phone to 919-518-9773. We have a chat window, and you are more than welcome to put your name, which is right near the video. You can use your nickname if you like, and just put it there and click send, and you can be part of the chat. So if you have any questions and you want to comment, you can do that in there as well. And we are more than happy to have you. You have a phone call? Hello, we have a phone call already. Hi. Hello? Okay, I guess maybe they hung up. If you call and you don't get through right away, just call back again or just wait on the line. We'll get to you as soon as we possibly can. So we love to bring you inspiring people, stories, tools, strategies, techniques, ideas, philosophies, whatever it is that is going to encourage each and every one of us to find our personal liberties, our freedom, whatever that looks like. Freedom from something, freedom to something, so that we all can just dance and be merry and joyful and be able to practice and enjoy the best life we possibly can have. And as one client told me a long, long time ago, to have the most fulfilling human experience. And I've never forgotten that in my entire life. And today is going to be one of those days. Our guest is a world traveler. One of the things on her list is to see and experience the wonders of the world. She has been involved in AIDS projects, research. She is an entrepreneurial friend and does a world of work in global projects with individuals and so forth. And the best person to talk about her is her. So let me welcome Dr. Bobby Banks to our show. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be on the show.
Well, I'm excited to have you because one of the things I read about you is that you are funny. And when you talk, you're motivational and funny. And I think, how else are you going to remember somebody who's motivational besides the fact that they inspire you and your emotion is to make you laugh?
That is very, very true.
Well, make you laugh.
I try to insert humor wherever I can.
I get you. Me too. I think it's great. It's one great way to connect. So if I was to ask you, and I've said a couple of things about you, but if I'm going to ask you who you are, who would you tell our audience you are?
That is a great question. I'm glad you led with that. When people ask me who I am, I say I'm Dorothy's child, or I say Dot's child. I am a community advocate, a servant, and first and foremost, Dorothy's child. My name is Bobby, and I am an inspirer and empower, and I work to help people take risk and help to empower them to carry out their life purpose.
And so what inspired you, Bobby, to do that? Dr. Bobby, what inspired you to do that?
Yeah, so I come from a very long line of public health nurses. My mother often told me stories of my great-grandmother who built the first Black-owned convalescent center in South Miami in 1945, which was unheard of, particularly by a woman of color. And I didn't really come to appreciate that until I was in my 20s. And to really see the power of an idea, to see the power of service, having stood in front of that building really, really inspired me. And so I come from a family that serves communities, and I continue to fulfill that legacy.
That's wonderful. So powerful women.
Oh, very powerful. I love the men too.
Yeah, I love the men too. I love men.
Love the men too,
Yeah.
but a very strong line of public health nurses. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, I love men too, and I find men to be inquisitive and interesting. So yeah, I'm glad you
Very
said that.
interesting. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. So how and where did the name Bobby come in, or is it short for something?
Yeah, it's not short for anything. So I'm not the original Bobby. My father is the original Bobby. He's Robert. And my name is just a creative feminization of his name. So it's pronounced just like Bobby. I'm daddy's little girl growing up. And so it's just a creative feminization of his name.
Uh-huh.
But I've gotten every pronunciation but Bobby growing up, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, when I looked at it, I go, Babby, you know.
Yeah, gotten that one. I've gotten that one. I've gotten
Right.
Bambi, Barley. I've gotten a lot of different
You
pronunciations.
got a lot. So your work primarily is
Hmm.
in the global arena, right?
That
Public
was
health,
that was the
AIDS.
training.
That was your.
Absolutely.
So why AIDS?
Yeah. So I entered the field of public health by chance. I thought, or I had delusions of becoming a medical doctor. I knew I was very, very good with math and science, but could not find that career that allowed me to use those skills in what I thought was a creative way to engage with communities. And so I found out about this field called public health and applied for a program to study epidemiology and biostatistics in Boston. And I did not want to study HIV/AIDS at all. I thought that the disease was 20 years old. Everyone knew everything about it until I happened to work at a teen clinic and unfortunately saw a child diagnosed with the disease. And I really started to understand some of the misperceptions and some of the incorrect information about the disease. And so I jumped on the bandwagon to really inform and educate people about it.
Mhm. So you have, correct me if I'm wrong. So you
Mhm.
have this public health, global health persona where you work a lot in assisting communities,
Mhm.
educating, but then you also have this other side,
Mhm.
entrepreneurial side, you know,
Mhm.
to help projects grow. So what's the connection?
Well, the connection is I try to build the capacity of organizations through research. And so my training has taught me how to evaluate programs. I'm an evaluator, and I help people really understand or conceptualize why they do what they do with their programs. And so my research training has led to my entrepreneurial efforts to go into nonprofit organizations or for profit organizations or philanthropic organizations and really help them understand the structure of their work and help them to carry it out in the best way that they can. So, in my entrepreneurial hat, I help them develop surveys and conduct focus groups and interviews and things like that. So, that's definitely connected to my training as a researcher.
I see. So what are you finding through your work with
Yeah.
the private sector and the nonprofit sector? What are you finding? What are you learning?
I'm learning there's still a lot to be done. There are a lot of well intentioned programs that run a gamut of diseases or conditions. And what I'm learning is that narrative is very, very important. We have a lot of quantitative data to tell us 50% of people do this or 60% of people do that, but we don't necessarily hear the stories of people. And so the work that I've been able to do to go into communities and hear these voices adds validity to some of the problems and concerns that communities have, and also speak to the need for problem solving or intervention at a larger level, at a structural level. So I've been learning a lot about people's lives, their lived experiences, and learning how to address those problems.
So you talk about, so you've taken, let's say, the global health kind of picture, and you
Hmm.
can apply similar things to the entrepreneurial picture. So instead of using in a corporation, nonprofit, instead of saying uh, the medical disease, you
Hmm.
call it a condition
Hmm.
of what is going on within that industry, corporation, project. Is that correct? Is that what I'm
Absolutely.
hearing?
So,
Okay.
and that's the beauty with program evaluation. I can cross various sectors. If you give me full time and full capacity to wrap my head around your project, that is what I do. I come in and help you think from the beginning to the end. And it's the same exact work that I had done in Malawi or the same work that I'd done in Brazil or Argentina or the World Health Organization in Geneva, helping organizations really either look forward before they develop a program and understand why they're doing what they're doing, or looking back if they've already kind of moved forward on a program and need to rethink, well, why are we doing what we're doing? So,
Mhm.
absolutely, all of those experiences help to build the skills and to interface with different people from different backgrounds to help me with my work. Absolutely.
So, are you finding a theme in corporations, nonprofit, that you're seeing as you embark on this work? Are you seeing some kind of pattern that you see as coming up in most situations, most conditions? Are you seeing something that seems like, wow, look, this is interesting?
Um, well, of course, I would have to speak in confidence, but I can say that across the board, that corporations, nonprofits, for-profits are now invested in mixed method research, and so they want to look at the numbers, and they also want to hear stories from people that those numbers are about. So you definitely will see that, or I have seen that across the board, despite or in spite of whatever type of organization that it is. And so I've definitely seen that level of investment across the board, and that helps with decision making for these organizations, hearing people's stories so that they can better develop programs or better develop grants or better develop interventions to help these particular populations. So that's definitely a theme that I've seen across the different types.
So you're seeing that. Let me see if I understand this correctly. So
Hmm.
you're seeing people, these companies, want to know more about their customer base or
Hmm.
their employees, their staff. They're
Hmm.
listening more. They want to know what people want, or
Hmm.
what they're not getting, or what they're
Hmm.
interested in. All that kind of stuff. Is that right?
Yes, and from various angles. In research, we call it a triangulation of data. We want to hear information from different sources to see if they all align or if they don't all align. And so, even within businesses or research projects that I've been on, so we're talking to the people who may be carrying out the program. We're talking to the people who may be receiving the program, and even talking to people in the community about what they think about the program. So you're getting several angles about the same concern. Yes.
Wow. So that is, see, I love people's
It's great.
stories.
I
Oh,
love it.
I love everything. I love people's stories.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We'll call it qualitative research. It's listening to people's narratives. I love it. I
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love it. I've loved people's stories for years, and
Hmm.
I continue to know and surmise that our healing and our growth is going to be when we share our stories. Because when we share our
Absolutely.
stories, that's where our humanity lies. You know.
Absolutely. And moving from the information on those stories, what do we do next?
Yeah. What do we do next? So
Hmm.
we're going to get into some of that. So as you listen, whether you are just curious, whether you are, let's see, Eric Hairston, who I think is Bobby's, is who's Eric Hairston? He says that's my kid. Who is that?
Eric Harrison is my high school guidance counselor.
Oh, so he takes you personally.
Yes, yes, yes. He knows my mother very well, and he helped launch the trajectory for me to do all of the work that I'm doing today. I'm
Good,
so
good, good.
happy,
Yeah,
so
he's
happy
here.
doing.
You got a lot of friends in this chat. So if you're a friend or colleague or just want to get to know Bobby even better, then you can call in at 919-518-9773 anytime during our talk. Or you can contact us. You won't be on video, but you can contact us on Skype at Computers 2K Voice, or you can come into the chat, which is a lively chat, and you can communicate with us there. You can ask questions. You can make comments. You can just say hello, and I'm going to relay as much of what's going on in the chat as I possibly can. But it is a very, you can say hello. Say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
So anybody, you can connect with us at any time. If you have a question that I'm not asking, by all means, this is a community forum. Come on in and chat with us. Amnan's got something. What? That's my big sister. Oh, Eben?
Oh, A Boone is one of my. I adopt everybody's children, but I met A Boone as I served as a panelist at the School of Public Health at UNC, and she was one of the proactive children who came up to me afterwards and wanted to learn more about my journey. And long story short, A Boone ended up enrolling at UNC and became our research assistant. And she's become a longtime friend and sister. And she has now gotten her doctorate, and she's a researcher at the Centers for Disease Control.
So what is it that you say that inspires people to do something, to change, to make a difference? What, I mean, after you've gathered some of this information, even what is
Hmm.
coming? I think there's something that's coming from your heart that kind of comes out, where people are
Hmm.
willing to make a change? What is that?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question. So
Yeah,
what inspires people
that
to
work
change,
with you to change.
that work with me to change? I think um
What's your
I think
personal belief?
I feel like receiving information and also feeling empowered to do something with that. I think that inspires people because particularly in communities that have been disadvantaged for a very long time. And may not feel that their voices are heard. That's what part of the reason that I love qualitative research, being able to go in and talk to these communities, or as you said, a corporation, to really ask, kind of the state of the nation, what's going on. Um, and I think all around, when I talked about hearing information from those three different angles, the example that I gave you, I think when people feel empowered to move and shake with that information, I think that's the seed of inspiration
Okay.
as opposed to just having that information kind of sit in a corner and never doing anything with it. I think what sparks people is knowing that they feel empowered to do something to move on to the next step.
So, it's interesting because usually when I interview someone, I have a somewhat of a big picture thing
Hmm.
that I know I'm unraveling. And with you here, I feel like we're unraveling something a little bit different,
Hmm.
and something that um, people will take with them forever.
Hmm.
So I have this idea that you listen to these stories and that you have, um, people are scared to hear what people have to say,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Hmm.
So no matter whether it's a nonprofit, a
Hmm.
for-profit, we don't always want to know the facts and the figures. We want to kind of put things under the rug and deny them. But I think you
Absolutely.
have a way about you
Hmm.
that you can gather up and gather up, connect the dots,
Hmm.
and you have a connection emotionally to what you're hearing. However, it doesn't stop you from delivering the information in a way that people can respond and react.
Absolutely. Marilyn, I'm putting you on payroll. That's it.
And you know what? I wasn't sure what I was going to say,
Uh-huh.
but something's just hitting me here
Uh-huh.
about how important it is for each of us, whether we are a sole proprietor or whatever we are. We have whatever size business, corporation, nonprofit, church. It doesn't matter. Whatever we're in, we've got to get that information,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And you have a way of getting it,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
So what is it about what I said that you're going to start to pay me for?
The ability to really connect with people, to hear their stories, and to let them know, and so that they have a feeling of your investment in the work, and that you will do something with that beyond being in that room and walking out at the end of the day. So that's why I said I would put you on payroll. That's exactly why I said I would put you on payroll.
That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because
And
yeah, go ahead.
I'm not tooting my own horn, but I am able, and I think partly because I'm a military brat. My dad was in the Air Force. I was able to move around a lot, and so I had to learn to adapt. I had to learn to be flexible. I had to interface with people from different backgrounds, and that made the very person you see sitting here today. And so I'm able to sit with people, sometimes be a fly on the wall, sometimes not be a fly on the wall, but more often a fly on the wall than not, but to really hear and learn who they are and why they are who they are. So this is why I love, and this is why I started my company, Pillar Consulting, so that I could listen to these narratives for research purposes or for other purposes and do something with that information, get really, really meaningful stories about people's lived experiences so that people can move with that information.
So you did this public health stuff, and then you launched your company. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you did the public health stuff, then you're taking that public health way of doing things and putting it into the corporate arena, basically.
Oh, I still do public health.
You still,
Public health
yes,
never leaves you.
right.
Public health never leaves you. So
No,
yes,
no,
I
no.
still do public health work.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Let
Yes.
me look and see. Is there anything? Which one? There's a lot of things going on in this chat. Which one? Let's see. Can you? Okay. So it's a bunch of stuff going on. Excuse me. So if I've missed something on this chat, do me a favor, whoever's on the chat, go ahead and give me a little brief summary again of what you would like me to ask.
LJ is asking, how do you use that connection
LJ is you okay? Is talking about what? How do you use the connection?
with you to motivate them to do their best?
Okay. So here's a question for you. When you are working with someone, how and you've got some bad news.
Mm-hmm.
The stories you've heard are not good stories. How do you present those stories in a way that's going to motivate the person on the other end to take action?
Exactly as they said it. So, whether it's a reflection of a program or something that they've been in and they did not have a favorable experience, I communicate that as it is. Now, how that entity wants to share that information with others or disseminate that information is up to their discretion. But I certainly do not filter people's stories. And if it's their lived experience, I certainly don't want to filter that either. The challenge is being in that space and trying to be a researcher with, I'm not going to say no emotion, but minimal emotion as people are telling you their experiences. That's the challenge. But I certainly do not filter people's narratives. I share that information as it's stated.
Right. You don't control the process.
No, ma'am.
And I think that's important. Like if you were talking to, if you get up and you were doing a training and you were training entrepreneurs to do some of this work, to ask the right questions, to take the information, how would you guide them to begin the process? What would you tell them?
To tell an entrepreneur to ask the right questions and guide them. Start the process by, as I stated earlier, being a fly on the wall, seeing what's going on. If you're in a particular area and you want to move forward and do something on your own in that particular area, being a fly on the wall and seeing what what the state of the nation is. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. Somebody's already doing the work. You want to do something innovative beyond that, or you might want to integrate yourself into that and be a part of it. And so watching, not just jumping into an effort and trying to do something that someone else may already be doing that may be benefiting a community or it may not. But really, really sitting back and seeing what's going on, hearing people's stories, doing lots of research. I Google and research articles and books were my friends for months before I even launched my business. I really wanted to see what quality work people were doing and how my work could be added to or different from some of the things that other companies were doing. And so I think those are two of the critical things, are to kind of sit back, be a fly on the wall, do lots and lots and lots of research to make sure that you're filling a gap or a need that really needs to be met. And then from there, you start developing your brand and start developing your site, your materials, your product.
So surveys are really important.
Surveys, surveys are important.
Yep, that's what I was thinking. So I've gone through our little chat, and I have a couple of I've pulled out some things that I know people want to ask you about.
Okay.
And one of the things is, how do you motivate the youth to take action? So I heard you talk about this young, beautiful woman who was on the panel, and she's now has her doctorate. So how do you motivate youth to do things?
I encourage them to be risk takers. And so I really let them know that they are the only person in control of this thing between their two ears. And that if they think they can do it, they can do it. And what I've seen, and why I got really passionate, or why I am really passionate about engaging with youth, is that they don't always have the support that they need to push them forward. And they don't always have exposure to things to let them know or to inspire them to be anything outside of what they see within their own communities. And so I just go in and pull out and peel back the layers of who they are. And I tell people all of the time, I don't have fear, and really talk to you about your fear. What is it, your fear? What is your fear? Like, what is it really, really rooted in? And 9 times out of 10, it's based on something or somebody else's perceptions of you. So I just think a really creative and innovative ways to talk to them about empowerment. A lot of the things that I do circle or surface around professional development, because what I've seen in interviewing young people for a variety of projects, they're brilliant, very, very brilliant, but they can't quite communicate their values or their skill set to the organization that they're trying to work with.
Mhm.
So I also work with them a lot on professional development and effective networking and resume development and that whole nine to get them equipped to do that. But I really, really encourage them to be risk takers. My father always told me failing does not make you a failure. I failed hundreds of times, hundreds and hundreds of times, but that led me to be the person that I am today.
So let me just summarize a little bit for anybody
Hmm.
that's joining us. So you do global public health, right? You have a specialty in AIDS. You
Hmm.
empower our youth.
Hmm.
You work with entrepreneurs and projects in helping them figure out what their role is, where they've gone wrong, where they can go right. Helping them straighten things out and creating projects and programs and taking their companies and their individual work further. Am I right?
Well,
You do all
I'm
those
a
things. Go
I'm
ahead.
a new entrepreneur myself, so I
Okay.
certainly can speak to what this process looks like. But in terms of my work that I spoke to you about that was related to research, that's for businesses or corporations or
Right.
companies.
Okay. So I just want people to get it because this woman does a lot of things, right? So the thing that you would say is similar
Hmm.
throughout a thread that's similar like for me, I do
Hmm.
a lot of things. I have this
Hmm.
show. I'm a
Hmm.
business and life coach. I do a
Hmm.
Google Hangout on listening. I do
Hmm.
different things, but my theme, my overall, but I can't do my work in one place,
Hmm.
right? I have to do it in different places so that my message gets out there in different ways because it
Hmm.
takes different things to help people find their freedom.
Absolutely.
Breaking
Hmm.
free of fear, all of
Hmm.
those things.
Hmm.
So, what is you're very similar in that regard. I'm
Hmm.
taking it because you empower youth. You do all these things. What is your mission, your movement in this world, your
To
personal
empower,
mission? Yeah, what's your
to
personal
empower.
mission?
Well, the terms I would use across all of that would be to build capacity. So to build individuals' capacity to do whatever work they want to do to
Okay.
fulfill their life purpose. And for organization, it's to build their capacity to understand and carry out their work. And so I would have to say my thread or my theme, the layperson may call empowerment. I would call it building capacity.
Mm. Yeah, I think the word empowerment is great for a lot of things, but I think
Hmm.
today in our world, we
Hmm.
want to kind of break it down.
I
And
agree.
it's not enough anymore just to stay empowered.
I
There's
agree.
right? Good.
I agree.
Okay, building capacity. And you mean by capacity, what do you mean by capacity?
Giving people a skill set so that they can carry it out themselves. So, in absence of building someone's capacity, I can go in and say, "Oh, give me your resume. I'll write it up for you. I'll edit it and I'll give it back to you." And building your capacity, I will say, "Okay, let me see your resume. These are the things that are key or integral to having a successful resume passed into a recruiter's hands. I want you to find other resources that can give you the language, the action verbs, whatever other information you need to build the prototype." And so, building capacity would be to give them the information, the skills, the resources, some resources, a little, not all, so that they can carry out the work themselves.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Yep. I like that a lot. And because you want to, I mean, you can't do everything for
Hmm.
people. And we want people to be able to be free, right?
Hmm.
I don't want to sit here and I want people to have an essence of
Absolutely.
something so that
Absolutely.
the philosophy of how the world could be
Hmm.
so they can do it themselves,
Absolutely.
right?
I
And,
agree.
and then that builds capacity for the entire planet.
And that, I mean, that's what our parents hopefully did for us before they pushed us out of the eagle's nest. Well,
Exactly.
most of our parents, I know that mine certainly. gave me the skills that I needed to do various things in life.
Yes, they sure did. And somebody, I know you spoke about all the women in your life.
Hmm.
And I really believe that we have people in our lives that may not always be our parent. Maybe
Hmm.
it's somebody else. Maybe you had an aunt or a cousin or an uncle or a teacher or a
Hmm.
guidance counselor, somebody in your life that has, been an inspiration for you. And I know you spoke about the women in your life, but somebody on the chat, somebody who knows you well, said, "Did you ask her about her grandmother?" So I want to make sure we cover it. Have you shared enough about your grandmother, or is there more to share?
Who asked that question? Can I ask?
Let's see. It's
Alpha.
law all the way up.
Alpha.
So somebody's asking about your grandmother. But let's go to another. Somebody also mentioned that you must have some really cool strategies for networking because you've networked yourself around the world. So
Yeah.
any
Oh, yes.
any entrepreneur would want to know how you did it. How'd you do it?
Investing in people. As I said, growing up as a military brat, I had to learn how to function in different settings and engage with and interact with people. That's something I've carried on into adulthood. And for anyone who knows me personally or professionally, I care about you beyond the scope of our personal or professional relationship. I like to know how your day is going. And people are surprised when I say, "Oh, well, how is your son's whatever?" You remember my son? Absolutely. Absolutely, because that is a part of who you are. And so, whether you are my best friend from high school, my guidance counselor, my brother, my client, I'm invested in you as a person, and people can gauge, people understand genuine relationships, and so that's what I offer. And it's a reciprocal relationship. Not my intention, but I definitely have networks that work for me because of that quality. Absolutely.
I think that's extremely, extremely important. And we
Mhm.
hear about these things a lot about building those relationships.
Mhm.
And but it's not just building them on the surface. It's
Mhm.
really acting just like what you're talking about, Bobby, as far as when you work with different companies, nonprofits, and how you take the info, you do the research,
Mhm.
you find out the stories, you
Mhm.
relay the stories, and then you have to take the action. It's the
Mhm.
same thing in the networking that you're doing. You've got
Mhm.
to listen to the stories, you got to really be involved in what you hear, and then you have to take those stories in the networking and take it to another level so
Mhm.
that it works for everybody,
Absolutely.
right?
And I teach workshops on this. Again, this is talking about those soft skills that I mentioned earlier. You can have a really nice resume, but if you can't communicate who you are to someone, and if you can't move beyond that to establish a relationship, that's a problem. So
Absolutely.
those are some of the workshops that I work with youth and with adults to
Mhm.
really, again, it really boils back to fear and risk taking at a fundamental level, but to work with them on that as well.
And I want to ask you because you made a point of saying that you don't have fear. So I'm going to ask you about that in a minute. But I do want to
Okay.
say that I totally agree. And I just did a talk about the invisible lines of connection
Mhm.
that are
Mhm.
between all of us.
Mhm.
And there are. I mean, you don't have to know
Absolutely.
anybody, but there is this line of connection that
Mhm.
exists everywhere. And
Yes.
by paying attention to each other, by listening, by asking the right questions, by really caring about somebody, those
Mhm.
lines of connections wake up,
Yes.
right?
I agree.
And there is nobody that you can't talk to. Even I
Mhm.
mean, some people you can talk a lot to. Some people maybe you have to. Everybody maybe it's different. Maybe somebody you can like blabble to, and it all works in one swift
Yes.
right. And then there are some
Absolutely.
people that you might take a little while to develop a relationship, but there
Mhm.
is always that line of connection.
People
Always.
know, yes, people know when you are genuinely invested in them as a person, and they know when you're genuinely invested in the work you're doing. People know
Absolutely.
that. People know that.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So I want to ask you about this thing about fear. You
Mhm.
said you don't have fear. Explain that
Yeah.
to me.
I'm one of those crazy people.
I know that. I know that. That's a good thing, right? Crazy,
One
crazy,
of those
crazy.
crazy fearless people.
Yeah.
So I there are very few things that I won't try or jump into, knowing my talent, my skill set, and the gifts that I've been given. And so if there's something that I would like to do, somewhere I would like to go, something that I would like to engage in that I know, again, that I have the full capacity to do, why would I not do that? And so I don't have fear. I definitely don't have a fear of my life purpose. I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And if there's anything along that way, along that path, why would I shrink back in fear? That is absolutely ridiculous for me. And so I don't know what tomorrow brings. I don't know what next year brings, but I know that I'm going to try my hardest to do great work and leave a legacy of service. That's what I want to do. And if I fail along the way, then I fail. But I tried. And so my relationship with fear and faith are so inverse. It's like there's very little that I don't believe I can't do. I'm not crazy like trying to fly with wings or anything like that, but I know the gifts I've been given. I know my talents again, like I said previously. So I'm going to move forward on the things I'd like to do
So,
and impact the lives I want to impact.
right, I agree, and I have a question to ask you about that, but I do want to let you know that you have a lot of love going on in this chat. So,
Oh, I wish I could see it. I
yeah,
wish I could see it.
Yvette says Dr. Banks has been driven from birth, of course, and you care about others, and she loves you. And
Oh,
then, yeah, and then LJ says that or whoever that is, I don't know if it's a she. I think the key to working with people is learning to listen and invest in their happiness. And you
absolutely.
do that, and that you are a kindred spirit of mine because I think that's extremely important. Um, and this thing about fear, you
Hmm.
said you know you can. Did you say you know you can do anything, or you? What did you say?
Oh, I didn't. I can't do
Okay,
anything,
what did
but
you say exactly?
I might have said that, but let
You
me
try. You'll
restate.
try to do things. Is that what you
So
said?
if there are things along my trajectory in life that I feel I have the skills to do, or that I feel that I'm purposed to do, I'm not going to shrink back from doing that. So that's what I mean when I say I don't have any fear. Now, you will not catch me jumping out of a plane anytime soon. Um, and I won't engage in work with aerospace, because that's not my specialty. But if there's anything under the scope of my work, my training, my life experiences, the seed that's been sown into me from my mother, my mother's mother, the public health nurses that I told you about, my aunts, um, I'm going to move forward with it. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean by
Okay.
that's what I mean when I say I don't have fear.
Uh huh.
Hmm.
So that's a very important uh, notion for all of you that are listening. That we all have gifts, and
Hmm.
in those gifts, we are an expert. We're an
Hmm.
expert at our story. We're experts. Do we have to cover all the bases at one clean swoop? No. We're here to learn. We're here to grow, but we don't have to shy away because we don't have all the answers all the time
Hmm.
in every minute.
Hmm.
And I think that, we all get to take the chances, and through those chances, we learn and we grow, and we can access and be more in our gifts
Hmm.
than not,
Yes, ma'am.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
And do it with humor.
Hmm.
What do you like about humor, honey? Because you love humor.
Humor's healing. I should say humor that is appropriately timed. It can be very, very healing, particularly if you learn to laugh at yourself. We're all going to fail at some point in life. I'm goofy. I do something goofy every day. My friends will tell you something. Bobby's going to do something goofy or forget something. Am I going to be frustrated and let that consume my brain for the remainder of the day? If I can, to the best of my ability, I'll try to laugh it off. Now, some things and some people kind of get under my skin. It may take longer than others, but yeah, you have to learn and just to laugh and let those things go. And I think that, again, people who've been to my workshops or my trainings, I do have a very serious tone about the topics I'm speaking about, but I also find that humor is a way to kind of break under that foundation to open people's ears. And I always use the analogy of like the Cosby Show or Ellen or all these great comedians that we have. We can all name probably at least two or three things that we've learned from these people because it was under the umbrella or with that foundation, I should say, of humor.
Yeah, people can remember. I have a
Oh,
pillow.
yes. Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of like listening workshop or listening type workshops, and I
Mm-hmm.
have a pillow that I'll take with me very often because it's funny, and a lot of us do this. The pillow
Mm-hmm.
says it's irritating when you keep talking and I'm interrupting. So I
I
take
like
it,
it.
and when I read that pillow initially, it was like, wow. So now, of course, on the show, I have permission to interrupt because I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
keep things moving and,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
in day to day real life, when I
Mm-hmm.
am interrupting, I think of the pillow and it will stop me because so that
Mm-hmm.
my agenda isn't like the number one agenda. It's like I'm listening. It's not about me all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
those things really do help, right?
Very true.
So
Very true.
um, let me see. Here's a question from Linton, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. How does one who is a jack of all trades narrow down one's specialties?
Great question. So for me, again, that's the beauty of program evaluation. So I say I wear two hats. Um, and I certainly don't claim to be a jack of all trades, but I wear two hats. One hat is I am a research consultant. I evaluate programs. And so my background in public health gave me a wide open door to learn about different skills under that umbrella of program evaluation, developing logic models, developing surveys, looking through theoretical frameworks and learning how to frame questions that required rigorous evaluation that on the front end we're asking rigorous questions on the front end. And so all of that training across public health can be lifted to other places, and that's the beauty of program evaluation. And so I've had the beauty of working now on a child literacy project that those same skills can be used. And so again, I certainly would not go do that same type of project in aeronautical engineering or anything like that. But that is the beauty of program evaluation. And that's why I love it. I love variety. I absolutely love it, which is why I'm an entrepreneur. And my second hat as a motivational speaker started as just empowerment talks. As I told you, pushing people to be risk takers. Like what exactly are you fearful of?
So
And also professional development. However, given my background in public health, people of course want to know about HIV/AIDS and some of the public health or health disparities work that I've done. So all of these align in different ways. But when I explain to people, my left hat is that I'm a researcher, and my background and my training is in program evaluation. And my right hat, um, I'm sorry, a consultant, and my right hat is a speaker, and that's why I have those other topics. So left hat consultant, right hat speaker. I think I had those backwards.
Yeah. Well, I think you do you like to do puzzles?
Yeah, I used to
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
word
Puzzles.
cross. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
I used to
you're
do.
creative, and I really think that when you are doing what you're doing, and when people are working within their companies, because many of you out there, are listening to this because you have a business and you're looking for a clue. How can I
Mm-hmm,
make my business better? How can I
mm-hmm,
move forward? How can I whatever? And you're hearing things about, being fearless,
mm-hmm,
taking risks, being empowered,
mm-hmm,
networking, how
mm-hmm,
important that is to build the relationships, to ask your customers questions, ask people who are not your customers questions.
mm-hmm,
What would they be looking for?
mm-hmm,
Do things with humor. If you
mm-hmm,
approach situations with humor, you're going to feel better about it. You're going
mm-hmm,
to get, a good response. It's going to be easier for you in going forward. And being a
mm-hmm,
problem solver. I mean,
mm-hmm,
coming into situations somewhat unemotional because you want to find out the clues. You want to find out what's going on that's going to help you promote your business. So you want to come in not taking things personally, coming in and saying, right? You want to be
absolutely.
Bobby if you can't. I mean, we're going to talk about some other things, but when you want to be a Bobby type, you want to come in and look at your business somewhat as a fly on the wall, as she has said many times, without baggage. You want to look at your business and
Mm-hmm,
say, okay, I am going to move this thing forward, but I need to know where I am now in helping it to move forward. And so you
Mhm.
want to take a look at things and come into it unaffected by the results, only by taking the results and taking it forward, which
Mhm.
is
And
very
being
important, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, and being honest with what you are not able to do. I've had to turn down just as many contracts as I've accepted, partly due to time, but also there just wasn't an alignment of skills that were needed. Although the individual sought me out for a consultation, so being very transparent and open and honest with yourself about what you are and are not able to do before you drive yourself crazy or there's a misalignment with your skill set and the customer's needs.
So that brings me to a really good point. And
Mhm.
that's one really beautiful suggestion as when
Mhm.
you are looking at your business
Mhm.
project, program, staff, whatever it is, whatever you're analyzing. Here is a queen of research. Here's the queen of analyzing stuff. So that's one. When you
Uh-huh.
start to see that you are embarking on something where maybe it's not like Bobby was saying, she won't take on something that's not within her
Mhm.
area. Maybe you want to evaluate where you're going. Is it where you want to go? Is it the work you want to do? That's number one.
Mhm.
So what other suggestions would you have, like based on some of what you're finding in both the nonprofit communities and the corporate communities? What other points would you have to make for entrepreneurs in general when they are finding information? What other information, or what would what would you suggest they do? That's number one. What else is there?
Kind of seeing what others are doing, what other researchers or what other entrepreneurs in your field are doing. Again, you don't want to reinvent the wheel unless your services are stellar and you feel that you are offering services above and beyond whatever someone else is doing. But seeing what other people are doing in your particular field. I don't know that I have suggestions outside of that. That's part of the huge part of research before you move on an initiative. That could be the biggest downfall, to just put a program together and say you want to do this and do this and do this and put all this time and manpower into it, only to see that it's already been done or someone else is doing it. So I highly encourage people to do as much research as possible, both introspectively, seeing what they can and cannot do, and also looking outward and seeing what others are doing so you're not reinventing the wheel. And really researching the people you want as clients. These are things that I teach the children in my workshops as well. How to really fully investigate and know an organization when you go for an interview. Those skills translate into adulthood. When you go to seek out a contract or you go to meet with the client, you need to fully know the mission of their organization, their history, any recent news that may have happened, their goals, all of that information. And so that's part of the huge research that I say people need to do before they move forward with an entrepreneurial endeavor, in my opinion.
I think that's great information, and I want to ask you, what's the first question
Mhm.
you want to ask yourself before you embark on this research? Is there a why question, or a what question, or a how question, or what's the question?
It's more of a how. How will these findings be used? As I said, I think it's important for me as an individual, as part of my investment with work and my investment with people, doing this project, developing these tools, speaking with these people. How will this inform the next steps? Because what I don't want are circular dialogues, and to me that's a false investment, and that's not the nature or the value of my work. So it's more of a how question. So we're doing all of this, I guess it's kind of a what and a how. We're doing all of this for what purpose, and how will this information be used? I'm a very results driven person, which is why I love evaluation. It's a lot of measuring and assessment. um, and so that would definitely be, for me, two of the questions I would ask.
Now your
I know you
result.
said one, but
No, but
uh,
that's okay. I try to make it easy for you, but
mhm.
can't help it if you got so many more, right? So you are results, but you also are creative because you have to do something with those results.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and then connecting. That's important. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say that you can connect because you got to ask the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Your results orientated, and then you know what you have to take some kind of action to figure out,
Mm-hmm.
creatively what to
Mm-hmm.
do with this information. How to
Mm-hmm.
connect the dots.
Yes.
So Chris, our co-producer, is making a point on the chat of saying that she's been working with Bobby some, and she said that she loves how you had an anniversary party and you invited like all of your supporters, your colleagues, like your friends. You included everybody,
I did
right? And
because you all have invested in me in different forms and different fashions. Why would I not include you in part of my celebration? Why would I not?
right, so everybody gets included.
Not everybody,
Okay,
but
right, but
definitely there are definitely tiers of people, but there are certainly people who have been very invested in me as an individual and in my company, and who are invested in comparable work. Particularly in public health, the network is it's broad, but it's also very tight. We're all invested in change. We're all change agents, and so yes, we called it an entrepreneur anniversary just to play off the term. Entrepreneur, and it was the 1 year anniversary of my business. But yeah, why wouldn't I invite you guys?
cool. So this is part of this work is your supporters, your friends, the people that you love and that love you back is who you
Mm-hmm.
want to surround yourself with. I want to ask another question
Mm-hmm.
before I go on to some talking about like where people find you. You, you.
Uh-huh.
you said change, and change is very important. So I know
Mm-hmm.
some of what you do takes time, right? Gathering the
Absolutely.
information can take time,
Mm-hmm.
talking to people, all of that research can take time.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes change has to happen quickly after the
Mm-hmm.
information is received and you've put it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that's true?
Yeah, change does take time. Absolutely. I think that for me, again, the what and the how is a part of that pie. I don't think there's any change that's going to happen in a week, a month, or even a year, particularly with some of the issues that have been deeply embedded disparately for who knows how long when it comes to like health and education. And so I think these small steps for me are great to see that people want to hear stories. They want to do something with this to lead to a program or an initiative or a policy to submit to whomever. And so I think there's small steps that lead to that change um, that I hope that people that do this type of work are know before they are invested in it.
Right. And then sometimes you have to be willing, though, to be the risk taker, as
Oh yeah.
Bobby has said many times, and to take the
Hmm.
information. And when it's time to take the risk, it's time to
Hmm.
take the risk because you
Hmm.
can't always cross another T and dot another I. You got to take,
Yeah.
right? You got to know when it's time
Not
to take
not
the action. Go ahead.
not the things that will take quite some time to break down and deconstruct and fix. But small steps are good steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, let me ask you, and you can tell everybody where they find you, what they will find when they find you. So here's a good time to do some self promotion.
All righty. So you can find me on my website, which is www.bahbyanks.com. That will give you an overview of who I am and what I do. It's primarily focused on my program evaluation services that I've talked about in depth, and also my speaking services. And you can see some amazing and recent announcements on that page as well, and see some of my upcoming events. I will be speaking at several places over the next couple months, but they're not open to the public. But please do keep an eye on my website and also my social media page. I'm on Facebook, and that's www.facebook.com/, Bobby Banks, spelled the same exact way. I'm on there a little more frequently with updates on the day to day things that I do, as well as events that are coming up. And the other big hurrah was the recent launch of my research consulting firm, and that is Pillar Consulting. And you can find that website at www.pillar, that's with two L's, PILLAR, consulting, RTP, like Research Triangle Park.com. And you can see there, more specifically, when I talked about how beautiful program evaluation is and how It can span several fields. You can see some of the work that I'm doing there. I've hired an amazing team to help me with different projects. So if there are any people out there who are experienced qualitative researchers, I'd be more than happy to have you on my team because we are growing very, very, very quickly. You can also see there some resources that I provided for people because program evaluation is called different things in different places, implementation science or quality assurance. So you can see some of the resources that more specifically show that the work that I do and some of the frameworks that I use for my company. So those are two of the big places. I am also on Twitter. That's also my full first name and last name. It's Bobby Banks, Bahbybanks. And feel free to tweet and say hi along the way. And I will be launching very soon a professional networking series here in the Raleigh-Durham area. So keep your eyes open for that launch. I will, of course, keep that flowing on my social media feeds, both on Facebook and on Twitter. And I will also be publishing a story about my mother. I spoke in depth about the women who are very, very important to me in my life and that legacy of service and that seed that was sown into me to do the same. I unfortunately lost my mother years ago, but am writing a short story about my last 7 days with her, and that will be complete this year. So keep your eye out for that as well. And I think that is it. Those are the places that you can find me. My websites, Facebook, as well as Twitter. And you can also reach me via email. It's info@bobbybanks.com or via telephone, and that's 704-617-3796.
Perfect. Perfect. That's
All right.
great. That's great.
I'm sorry for moving forward. I do that when I speak to people.
No. You listen.
I'm like, hi.
Breaking free means never having to say I'm sorry. Okay? That's what you're here for. This show is never about saying I'm sorry, unless it's about me wearing the wrong dress or
And
something.
it's not in 3D, so it doesn't scare anybody. Don't worry.
We might need to do 3D glasses one time.
It has been delightful to have you here and to have all of you sharing here with us and being in the chat and all the love that I see there for Bobby. It's been extraordinary. And I think one of the things that I have heard throughout our time together is our capacity. Our capacity is endless. Mm-hmm. And through the proper research, asking questions, listening, connecting, anything is possible. And our capacity is endless, whether it's for children, teenagers, adults. And so I'm going to ask, right? So in closing, could you share just a line of what you want people to take away with, Bobby?
I will leave you with a quote that I was introduced to my freshman year of college. That is pretty much my motto in life, and it's a quote by Benjamin E. Mays, who delivered the eulogy at Dr. Martin Luther King's funeral. And the quote is, "Whatever one touches, his aim should be to leave that which he touches better than he found it." So I encourage you all to go out and be change agents, do great work. I will be doing the same in my corner to help build the capacity of organizations to carry out great work. And I will continue to go out in the community and talk to people about living wonderful, purposed lives.
That's perfect. And I would say we're very fortunate, all of us, that there are people like Dr. Bobby out there and that she has a network of people out there like her that are committed to making change, to helping to create change in our nonprofits, in public health, and in our private industries. So
Absolutely.
let's go back and let's watch her and learn from her. And if anybody is in need of her assistance, you know how to find her. And it's great. And if I can be of any help to any of you as a business and life coach, speaker, trainer, I'm here, Marilyn at MarilynShannon.com. I would love to help you in any way I can. Come back again next week for another amazing episode of the Breaking Free Show, because the more we share these shows, the freer we get. And I heard a wonderful line last week, and it was that we are learning to break free from, and we are learning how to break free to. And I'm going to be talking more about that. Yeah, that was just really hit me. So
Mm-hmm.
with that, I want to thank Dr. Bobby for being here, and everyone out there. Thank you. I'm Nan Chris. Everyone in our audience, thank you. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Thank you.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCBVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Your Healthy Pet with Gisela DiCarlo. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.